Suidani, I heard, he can't stay in the Solomon Islands for safety reasons. He's trying to get to the U.S. How's that going?
So I think he can go to the Solomons. It is going to be dangerous for him. There's an incredible political warfare campaign against him. You've spoken to him, former premier of Malaita province. His province, when Solomons flipped to China in 2019, September, in October, they put out the Auki communique, which said for environmental, political, moral reasons, they didn't want any CCP-linked companies operating in the province. And then there was incredible pressure put on them to try to change their mind. But they stuck with it. So when Prime Minister of Solomon said he was going to bring in he was going to borrow over $60 million US from the Chinese to put in 161 Huawei towers, Malaita province said, we don't want the 30 plus towers you're going to put in our province. Like, they stuck with it. Now, that meant enemy number one in the country for the Chinese, right? It's like a Panuelo situation. You have to hammer down those nails that are sticking their head up, or other nails might pop up and your whole structure might start to become shaky and fall apart. So they put in all this money, managed to buy off enough people so that there was a vote of no confidence. He lost the premiership. He was then invited by an NGO to come to the U.S. to speak at an environmental conference about Indigenous leadership, because part of his whole thing is we don't want the Chinese here because of the way they do logging and they just destroy the environment. And we care about our environment and we do this Indigenous guardianship of the land. And then he applied for a U.S. visa and he was denied. And it happened to be within days of Kurt Campbell visiting Honiara, the capital of Solomon Islands.
Very suspicious.
And Kurt Campbell has a position in the State Department currently?
He's the Indo-Pacific coordinator at the National Security Council.
Okay.
He was also the one responsible for the Scarborough Shoal incident, as I remember.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, that was, if I didn't mention in this podcast.
You didn't.
I didn't. That was when China was trying to take over the Scarborough Shoal, very near to the Philippines. Looked like the Philippines and China might have a conflict over that. Kurt Campbell negotiated a deal where China and the Philippines would leave. The Philippines side left, the Chinese side stay, and the U.S. did nothing.
And this was 2012 under Obama.
Yeah. And it became known as the Scarborough Shoal model inside China, the idea that, like, you can do this salami slicing and the U.S. won't react. And this was the start of the artificial islands in the South China Sea, the militarization. This is just another example of the U.S. failing as a leader of a free democratic world.
So the question is this Scarborough Shoal 2.0? Because what they did with Scarborough Shoal was a physical possession. This is a possession of Solomon's, the land of Guadalcanal, where all of that American blood is soaked into the beaches, through political warfare. So the question is it going to be the same approach where, we can negotiate with the Chinese and we can come to an agreement and, they'll follow through. Sogavari said he wouldn't have a military base. I mean, that's what's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the same time, the people who are willing to fight for it, in the other case, it was the Philippines. In this case, it's, Daniel Suidani and the people of Malaita, aren't seemingly getting any backing. Right. So this is really, I really hope I'm wrong, but it is starting to look like exactly the same sort of approach that created Scarborough Shoal. And the same with Panuelo. If we let Panuelo recognize Taiwan, then the Chinese will get mad. Now, we don't want to get the Chinese mad. We need them on climate change. And anyways, they said they would behave and all this sort of stuff.
And they always do when they say so.
So, yeah, it's not encouraging.
Well, this really is a grim picture where, the U.S. is failing at its role of being a leader for a free world. So the question is, how can the U.S. reassume that role? And worst case scenario, if the U.S. really does fail at that, what can all these other countries do? All of the Pacific Island countries, India.
So by the time this is aired, we'll know what happened with Suidani's visa because he's reapplying. And this is the good news is that he's had huge congressional bipartisan support. So both chairs of the Pacific Island Caucus, Ed Case from Hawaii and Amata Radewagen from American Samoa, a Democrat and a Republican, have signed a letter to Secretary Blinken, strongly encouraged that they give him a visa, and he has reapplied. And Representative Neil Dunn has made a very strong statement in support as well, and he's from the China Committee, right? So this is this thing. The U.S. never has been monolithic. And as other parts of the U.S. start to find their voice and stand for the things that the U.S. has stood for the world for so long, I think the position can be maintained, regained, grow. But there has to be an awareness that business as usual is failing. It's a gone out of business sign on the business as usual.
I mean, it really is an incredible story. Like they say, America, the shot heard around the world. The American Revolution, the War of Independence, like all of these countries around the world that we've been talking about are influenced by that act, that War of Independence. Those ideals really caught fire around the world. And China, the Chinese Communist Party, is a major threat to snuff out that fire. And unfortunately, the U.S. that started it all it seems to be stumbling.
There are a lot of people in the islands and elsewhere who truly believe in. They've read the founding documents and they believe in it. They really believe in it, and it's very touching, and it's potentially heartbreaking. But if the shining city on the hill, if that light goes out to a whole bunch of different little villages and is at least stays alive there, so that when the city on the hill is ready to re-illuminate, there's flames. I'm going to lose myself in this metaphor.
The candle can light other candles, right?
Yeah, it's the Hanukkah story, really. That's what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it lasted 8 long nights. But this is kind of what the hope is, that the U.S. will be the beacon, right? But the U.S. has already spread the flame. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. And if the U.S. doesn't snuff out the flame in those other places and allows it to, through real politique and some sort of clever, statesmanship that they think is being clever, like Scarborough Shoal 1.0, then we have a chance to fight it. And it's from the Pacific Islands to India. There are a lot of people out there who just want a chance. They just want democracy. They want court systems that work. They want a free press, and they want to get on with their lives. All of those 3 warfares that China goes after, right? They want them gone. They want to fight back. They want the psychological warfare, the media warfare, and the lawfare. That tells you how China tries to, apart from everything else, get control of the country. So to counter that, you need the free press. You need free thinking, that's the psychological warfare, and you need free judiciary, independent judiciary.
Though you said the 3 warfares, on our last podcast we had Grant Newsham on, and he talked about 24 warfares.
There are, yeah.
There's a lot of warfares.
So he's of course right, and go read his book. The 24 are from unrestricted warfare. The Chinese have overtly said those 3. I think that the ones they don't say are just as important, or if not more so. They don't want to make it public. I think like education, things like that. Yeah. And the drug stuff the fentanyl stuff is horrific.
Yeah. But I mean, I think anyone listening to this, like, I think an issue is like there is just a lot of like negativity about the United States, even within the United States. But from what we've seen with these other countries believing in like these fundamental values, like, you know, America really is great. People say, well, when was America great? It was great from day one, and it still is. We just have to fire the State Department, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. I was amazed at how many members of Congress were willing to just go to bat for Daniel Suidani's visa. Like, they're not getting anything out of it. You know, nothing. And it was very fast, and they got it immediately. They knew exactly why they needed to support
That's a great
that. Yeah. And that was incredibly encouraging. And it goes back to this thing about why Honduras was reported, but Micronesia wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. We continuously report on the negatives. You know, on the Congress, people are doing all sorts of nasty stuff. Much less coverage on people are just doing their jobs on a daily basis and trying to help their constituents and do the right thing and fight for all of the things that you're talking about.